Okay, so on the panel today, we have Sena, Pele, Vikram, and Gigi. And before we go into questions, I really wanted to hear from each of you guys who you are as a person and whatever that means to you and why you're involved in the project.
My name is Sena Voncujovi. I'm a junior international politics and economics student here at Middlebury College. And I started this idea of ReVodution based on my background as a third-generation Vodou priest. My father is a healer. My great-grandfather was a healer. But I could not have done it without these people. Sitting next to me, I would like to thank Gigi because I took a photography class with Gigi last J-term. And that was where the idea came of using film or photography to show my culture. And so she was the biggest inspiration behind this. Myself, I'm very bad at shooting photos and stuff. But, Pele, he has the, artistic eye that I don't have. And so this project really was a combination of all these people. We're coming out with a website very soon. And I would like to thank the Middlebury Digital Liberal Arts Program for giving us funding to do that. Yeah.
Hello. My name is Pele. I'm Sena's little brother. I'm a freshman. Yeah, I'm the little brother. I'm a freshman. I don't have a major, but I was thinking maybe political science, African studies minor, African studies and film minor. And basically, we did this project over last summer, and Sena came up with this cool idea, and we all just jumped on the boat, and we're like, let's do this, it's great. And I also like to thank Gigi a lot for everything she's done for us. Like, I think without Gigi, there's no way any of this could have happened. I also took a class with her. I took a introduction to video art with Gigi in the fall. And so I met Gigi in Ghana before. I'm like talking all about Gigi. But basically, I knew her before I came to Middlebury, and I took her class. And I remember when we're filming the documentary, Gigi and another woman who was super important for us called Sunita, like they were the main photographers and videographers for the project. And so I just used my camera and I was going around them because I can't get into the shot. And so I was always just on the perimeter just trying to film stuff. So Wherever You Go was my final project for video art class. And I was trying to just capture the mix between traditional like spirituality and just traditional lifestyle and how it's inseparable. And aspects like, there's some themes in there that many people will probably not catch, like the chameleon. And actually the video started with a chameleon, but it didn't show. But the chameleon is like a representation of one of the Ave Trinities called Mawe Sokolisa. And that is the Trinity, God the Creator. And basically the chameleon is a very cautious animal. And so what I was trying to get at here is the mixture of how spirituality and divination can be used to help guide your lifestyle, and that's why the chameleon is moving, and then the Ifat plant drops, and then it gives like the divination tells what it should do, and so you cautiously go through life. And so these are the aspects I wanted to capture with the video, and so yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed it. And oh yeah, I have to give credit to the Zambian group Musi Otonia that made the song. The song is called Bashimwana. Oh, and well, I guess you guys will get the chance to check out the ReVodution exhibition that we have laid out at the Great Hall. Yesterday, God helped me, God and Kai, so shout out to God. Basically, it's an exhibition that explains a lot of things about what we're trying to do. And Christina over there helped us a lot with like just editing and making all the pictures like almost perfect. So thank you, Christina, a lot.
Hi guys, my name is Vikram Kalika. I'm a senior fab biochemistry major, and I guess I'm sort of the odd one out in the panel because I played a sort of an auxiliary role. But I got into this whole thing through really my friendship with Sena, and he introduced me to his particular brand of spirituality, African traditional spirituality, and just through our friendship, I guess I kind of got into that, and that's spiraled in me being involved with this whole documentary. When in the summer I went to join Sena and Pele to help out a bit in the documentary, and I was initiated into their family's shrine, and in collaboration with the professor here, Professor Stoll, don't know if he's here tonight, but in collaboration with the professor here, I did independent study on my experiences there, and yeah, so that explains why I was on the panel.
Okay. Oh yeah. And you were also initiated.
Yeah, I was initiated into the shrine.
Right. Hi everybody. I'm Gigi. I'm a visiting assistant professor in studio art, and this has just been a great pleasure to work with everyone and Nasagi on the website, Sena and Pele, Vikram, Christina. And Sunita, who's not here. What else do I think we'll get to some of the questions afterwards, but I guess what just brought me to the project was Sena. I had this wild idea. I received an email that said, "Do you want to go to Ghana?" And I said, yes, and then somehow made it happen. I don't know how it happened, but it happened. And here we are today. So without further ado, I guess we should say this is a rough cut of one of the films that we're making. We're actually planning to make a much longer film that focuses maybe more on their family in general, and about one of the adventures that we took together. This film is focused on the stigma of voodoo, and it's a rough cut, but I think
It's good.
we're excited to share it with you at this stage. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Shall we? Okay.
So moving forward, I'm going to ask a few guiding questions, and hopefully that will produce some really cool answers and give us some more context as to where the videos came from. And then from that, we'd love to move into questions from you, which hopefully their answers will kind of incite something in you to ask. So firstly, what I wanted to ask the panel was, when was this all made, and how did the ReVodution project start, and how did it come to be?
Okay, I think I can start. So it started, like I said, when I took Gigi's class last J-term, so last January 2015. This idea came after I took a class with Gigi. And then after Gigi's class, I was thinking of how I could use, film and photography to, capture my culture more. And I applied to so many funds and grants. I applied to, Middlebury CSC, Center for Social Entrepreneurship, and I got rejected by all of them. So about 3 funds kind of rejected me, and kind of as a last resort, I called Gigi. I was like, "Yo, Gigi, do you want to come to Ghana? Come film?" And she was like, "Yeah, I'll come." And she said, "I'll even bring my friend." And then she brought Sunita with her, who is the videographer. So I really appreciate that. And I really like to thank Gigi again, because she's, one of the biggest, forces behind this. And so I invited Gigi, and Gigi came to Ghana in July for 13 days. And we visited 6 shrines around Ghana, about 50 hours worth of material. So it was a lot. It was very intense. It was every morning from about 8 a.m. until 11 p.m. or even longer. And African time. Everywhere you go, it's like, oh, you'll finish at 5 p.m. and then you finish at 2 a.m. or something like that. But yeah, that's how it started.
Okay, so looking at the video more contextually, how has this project changed your perception and understanding of your own culture? And what do you think will be the reception of this short film in Ghana?
So I guess for me, having grown up in Ghana, I grew up there my whole life. And so I never, I was also kind of a victim to this colonial mindset of always wanting to seek what is beyond your country, and like everything abroad is great. I always wanted to, in Ghana, I say, well, going outside. I wanted to go outside and go and see everything. And so I didn't really value too much, even just generally like the aesthetic appeal of Ghana. And it was through this project, because I got into photography like 2 years ago, and this was my first time taking my camera to Ghana to go and film stuff. And so it was just like a perfect opportunity to have this project so I can film. I mean, regardless, I'll still have been able to, but like have this intense weeks where I get to film all these traditional and spiritual aspects. And it really changed my perception of Ghana. Just looking at the world through your camera lens, you're trying to find the best of the best that you can get into your shot. And through that, I just started to appreciate Ghana and the landscape so much more, the people and the traditions. Like, it really opened my eyes to see that actually. And there was a time where we're driving on it wasn't a highway, it was like a mountain road. And I just stopped for a second. I was like, wow, Ghana is so beautiful, and I had taken like great pictures. I went to school in Costa Rica for 2 years, and I took great pictures there. But honestly, I think the pictures I've taken in Ghana are my all-time favorites. And it really changed my perception of like what Ghana means to me, or like my understanding of it. And how the people would deal with it in Ghana, honestly, I think the older people in the society are more heavily indoctrinated with Christianity, and they have more, they're more influenced, I think, by the colonial legacy, in the sense that they're very, like, the older people I interviewed in the beginning of the short film, they're very like, it's bad, that's it. But the young people are more open-minded. The youth is definitely more open-minded to change and to question all these things that they've been told in society all their lives. So I don't know how it would be received, but I think among the youth it would be received better, and among the older people it might be more of a challenge, I think.
And whilst Pele and I were growing up in Ghana, I went to a Christian school, because all the good British schools are Christian. And I remember that my friends and even my teachers would call us devil worshipper or evil people because of our spiritual practice. And I would be, arguing with them. I would be in class 3, so a very little boy, arguing with my teacher, and who am I to be challenging my teacher? But then there was David Fox, who's here with us right now, recently wrote an article about us, we went on a voodoo trip to Cuba, funded by the school over spring break. But then when he wrote this article and I shared it on my Facebook, I saw many of my teachers sharing it. I saw many of my friends who had been very hostile towards our spiritual practice sharing it. And that makes me hopeful that when this documentary comes out, people in Ghana will be open. They'll take interest to it, and that, that's really nice to know. So I think people will take it well. Definitely some people will be like, no. But it's not something that we haven't dealt with before, of people discriminating because of our practice. So, we're okay.
Kind of going off that, we wanted to ask Vikram, you said yourself that your presence on the panel was kind of unique. And so we wanted to hear, what was it like diving into a new culture and spiritual practice, and what inspired you to kind of endeavor such a different experience?
Yeah, well, it's a bit of a long story, but I'll give a bit of background about myself, or my religious background at least. Both my parents are atheists. Well, my mum's an agnostic, dad's an atheist. And we come from culturally religious families, but neither of my parents abandoned that early on in their journeys. And with me, they just sort of didn't tell me either way, let me figure out by myself. And as a result, I became an atheist. So for a number of years, I was a very staunch atheist, very militant atheist. But coming to college, and I'm a biochemistry major, so a religion minor as well. So, but the more religion I read, the more obviously, the more philosophy, and even the more science I read, it led to a sort of intellectual softening where it allowed me to take spiritual experiences and spiritual narratives much more seriously. So when I met Sena, and he introduced me to his tradition, I was sort of kind of open to it, but I was still sort of in the Western epistemological mindset where we're trying to explain everything in terms of matter and motion. So I thought maybe, yeah, there's something to, you know, positive thinking and all that. But the experiences that I had went so far beyond that it forced me to, you know, reevaluate my worldview in that way. So it forced me to expand my worldview in that way. And now to explain the sort of experiences that I've had in terms of, you know, brain states or like how they try to explain things only in material terms in this Western mindset, in terms of matter and motion, brain states or electrical chemistry in the brain, those for me now are very reductionist explanations. Now I'm more interested in expansionist explanations, because now with the experiences that I've had and the traditions and philosophies I've read about, these explain it in a much better way to me. They help me explain the experience that I had in a much more expansive way than what Western epistemology can offer us. So I stuck with voodoo really because it worked. And it's not because there was any one sort of revelatory experience which like caused me to suspend all doubt. I consider myself a very skeptical person. I'm still very doubtful, and you know, you need doubt and you need skepticism to be grounded and be healthy. Skepticism is very healthy. So it's not that I've suspended doubt, it's that doubt's always been there, and that skepticism and that doubt is there to this day. But each time my experience has superseded that doubt. So basically, yeah, I stuck with it because it works. And yeah, I realized when I gave my introduction, you know, they both gave thanks to everybody, and I forgot to say any thank yous, but I'm incredibly grateful to both of these guys and their family and the crew as well for involving me, because really it has changed my life in a very meaningful way.
Going off that, Gigi, you're also kind of unique in that we're a foreigner who came into this project. So we'd love to hear about how your worldview has possibly changed from this. And you also did similar work in Trinidad, and maybe comparing those two works.
Sure. So I think, well, basically, I came from, let me see, how can I shorten my story too? I grew up in a kind of like a Italian-American household with a strong Roman Catholic background, and spent a long time struggling with my own like identity and religion and everything. So I think, and it kind of crept into my work later on, and I became really fascinated with the way that people try to understand why we're here, and how we sort of imbue spaces with meaning, and how we make objects to transcend the world. And I had gone and lived in Trinidad because I was really drawn to Orisha, which is a syncretic faith that has is based in from Yoruba land, and it encompasses like Catholicism, Protestantism, Hinduism, Kabbalah, and I don't actually come from a documentary background at all, so this project was really new to me. I sort of approached my time in Trinidad as like I was really excited by this idea that Orisha in Trinidad is like considered a cult, and it was marginalized, and I wanted to know why, and I was really a student. I was going in there as a student, and so I had like become friends with a lot of people who were practitioners, and I thought, this is not really my story to tell at all. And the Orisha was evolving in that a lot of the younger generation were, wanting to Africanize it and wanting to kind of separate themselves from this like Catholicism and this colonial past or influence in their religion. So I kind of took a new role where I became more of a collaborator, and I felt more comfortable in that role. And I guess I had shared some of I think Sena had made, basically, so then fast forward to when I was in Middlebury teaching a J-term class, Sena had made a snow sculpture for one of our projects that was like a sculpture and photography project, and it was a legba, And I said, I know that. And he was like, why would you know that? And so we started to talk, and that's kind of, and I shared my work with him that I had done in Trinidad. And so that's kind of what led me to this trip. And I was really excited about this trip because, I think that the best part of being a teacher is that you get to be a lifelong learner, and it was really fun to sort of flip roles and be the student and let the students be the teachers, and to really kind of collaborate with these guys. And so yeah, we said yes, let's do it, and that's kind of how it happened.
Awesome. Just before we move into some questions from the crowd, we'd love to hear a few short comments on challenges that you all faced, and I'm sure you all can contribute to this question.
Yeah. One of the biggest challenges for me was dealing with my father. Because generally my father and I are like best buds. I'm usually fighting more with my mother than my father, but he at the beginning saw this as me bringing a bunch of friends to Ghana, and making them benefit more than we benefited, kind of. And also we had no money, because all the funds rejected us. And so we were on a really tight budget, and then we had to go to all these 6 different shrines, and we had to buy petrol, and then we had to go and dash some people some money and all of that, and that was just really tight. And so there was a lot of tension. And during the time, for example, if one person in the team was too tired and they needed to go back home, and they would express to me that I'm tired, I need to go and sleep, and then I'll go and tell my father, can we leave? He would take it like I'm the one saying that we want to leave, and he would say, yo, Sena, you don't think about your other people, you only think about yourself, But it was fine, because I knew that at the end of the day it was for everybody, and I think deep down he also knew that. It was just that the situation just wasn't easy. Another thing that was difficult was to bring a bunch of foreigners into different shrines, because even in Ghana I'm considered foreign, so they will consider me white. They will say Obroni, or they will know that I'm foreign, I'm not full Ghanaian, because my mother is Japanese. But they know me and my brother, but like bringing a whole bunch of different people, it's like, whoa, these people are trying to make money off of us, and so they were very close. And so at first they were very hesitant, a lot of the healers, but when I described to them the project and why I was doing this, they all supported, and I'm very grateful to my elders back home, because they were like, okay, let's do it, and everybody came in 100%, even 150, because they were so happy to come and display what they had to the group, which was incredible, really. And that kind of makes me really question how valid are all these studies that people have done about our traditional practices. Somebody comes, he has no connection with the people. Vice, they go the first time, we go in 1 week, they shoot really quickly, and then they come and say this is what the tradition is, and they have no idea of what the tradition is.
Well, I guess also for me, I don't fight as much with my mom, and I fight a bit more with my dad. and I share a lot of similar characteristics with him. Like, apparently we're relatively hot-headed people, and I think me and my dad we're having like our own little issues. And because Sena was kind of like the leader of the project, like my dad would lash out on Sena, and Sena is the kind of person that like internalizes, like if you shout at him, he'll just like bottle it up, and stuff. And so when my dad shouts at Sena, that used to make me angry sometimes. And so like when my dad tells me anything, like I usually just react, and not like to be disrespectful, not that I'm a disrespectful child or anything. I'm not. I respect and everything, but then like I like to also, like if he's saying something I don't agree, I want to tell him what I think. And so that was a bit of a challenge. But I think for me, it was a more personal thing, like more than the group thing. I think just generally understanding like my role in the project, because like as a photographer, I was I'm like the secondary photographer because Gigi and Sunita were the main, and so they're always filming. So I'm always out of the shot, and so like after like when we had like the exhibition up, or like the documentary, like I wasn't really in many of the like footage, you know, and so like I used to just internally feel like I don't feel like I'm really in this. Like people are not gonna see me. But with time, I started to understand that, not like I want fame, but like with time, you know, I started to understand that it's not really about being in the thing. Like, you know, you put in your part into the project, and you understand where you stand, and you work towards the greater good, you know, for the people. And so yeah, I think that was something that I battled with in the beginning, but now I'm much more comfortable understanding where I stand, and it's nice.
Did you have any challenges?
I think these guys shouldered most of the burden of the challenges, so I was happy just to be able to tag along.
Well, I could say there were some, let's see, we didn't have challenges in the sense that like Sena did an incredible job setting up this itinerary, so we didn't have to think about how we were going to get to places, whether or not we had permission to film. I mean, all of these things that really, really matter in making something like this happen. So that was really incredible, especially as filmmakers. We could just focus on what we were doing. It was also incredible that like the first night, Pele was like, "Oh, you do photography? I'm going to show you my photography." And then it was like, "Okay, you have an eye. Like you need to be in on this project." And he's playing it down, but he had a very big role in that, and was really as an assistant to both Sunita and I, and also in capturing, you know, those interview shots and after we were gone, and a lot of really fantastic footage. Challenges did arise in terms of, I mean, for one, I was pretty accustomed to, you know, going to some of these kind of practices, knowing that they take hours, knowing that you could probably and maybe end up not sleeping at all. And, you know, you're dealing with difficult lighting situations, you're dealing with a lot of handheld shots, your arms get tired, like a lot of issues that arise just in the challenge of like filmmaking in a place that is new and you know, trying to adjust to everybody and also like shoot in a very respectful manner. Sunita and I both are very cognizant of our role and being very responsible with our role, and being more objective and more so as like observers and not trying to play into the stereotypes of what maybe a filmmaker from foreign country would assume. And also I was like, yeah, so I was like a little concerned also with Sunita not being accustomed to maybe some of these practices, but she took it like a champ. But I think that if any of you are filmmakers too, I think that you know, for me not doing documentary, like I was responding initially to, well, I was struggling between like, when do I do still photography, when do I shoot? And then, oh no, I'm doing too much film. I'm too much taking video. I need to be, you know, doing still, and sort of like balancing that, and making sure that I'm covering like what Sena really wants for this project. And then also like we had a very short amount of time and a jam-packed schedule and no time to reflect. And that was probably the biggest challenge, was like, what is our story? What is the story? You know, we tried to think of possible stories. Oh, this is a story about Vikram initiating before we even arrived. And then once we got there, we realized like, oh my God, we just have to shoot. And what I wasn't accustomed to in the documentary world was that you have to shoot all the time. I would see like a nice shot, I would shoot it, and then I'd put my camera away and I'd be like, so why is Sunita still? She's like shooting all, like, they will not start for like 5 hours. Like they'll say 5 minutes, it will be 5 hours. But what she knew is actually that you need to shoot everything. And it was about halfway through the trip we realized, you know, the real story is that here we have this really warm, educated, funny, delightful family that is international and cosmopolitan, and they're upholding their traditions, and that is the story. And unfortunately, we're so exhausted at the end of the night that we turn our cameras off during the dinner conversation that's really lively, and that's where all the fun is happening. So we shifted like halfway through in terms of story. So we're gonna try to resolve that, but I think the biggest challenge is like how do you form a story ahead of time or in the moment, to really like relate what is happening in front of you.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So we do want to reserve some time for you all to go and look at the exhibition, but if we want to open up the space in case there is anyone who has a question for the panel.
Yes, we called it.
Hey. Hello. What's up? My name's Jiswayo. Thank you for this. I guess I got a two-part question.
Oh wait, but is it working?
I got a two-part.
Oh, there you go.
I got a two-part question. Instead of thinking about the rapture that colonialism has caused and other religions that have come to the continent, and thinking about Christianity, Islam, do you see the future of voodoo or the practice of it as something that can be practiced alone, or can there be something about it that's blended with those traditions or those customs or religions that have come as a result of colonialism? Can there be a type of syncretism to that?
Thank you for the question. I definitely think that there can be kind of syncretism. I was recently in Cuba, and in Cuba, the slaves, they brought together their Yoruba religion. So today, if you go to Cuba, in some houses they are speaking Yoruba. That was the most surprising thing ever. And what they did was that the slave masters said that they were not allowed to practice, and so they syncretized them with Catholic saints. And they said, Saint Barbara, you're really Shango, god of thunder, but I'm going to be calling you Saint Barbara from now on. And when the white master comes and sees me, I'm praying to Saint Barbara, and take it like that. And so today, when you go to Cuba, you see you go to a church and you see Orisha worshippers at the same time Christians in the same place worshiping. And for me, I was so happy to see that. I think traditional African practices are very syncretic. We believe in the efficacy of other practices, and so I have talismans that have scriptures from the Quran. There are some incantations and rituals that we do that the incantation is, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. So we are open. From the traditionalist point of view, it's open to other practices. The question now is, would the other faiths like Christianity, especially, would they be willing to accept to live together? And I think this is the reason why we're coming out with this documentary, to try and show that it's not as evil as you think it is, or your idea of what it is just based on a stereotype that has been perpetuated by Nollywood, Hollywood. It's juju woman, a witch is just killing the whole village. It's not like that. So I do think that what we can try and do is teach people to respect other people's practice, and then we can be okay, and then there can be harmony.
Okay, we probably have time for 2 more questions. So we're gonna. I know you had your
Hello, my name is Bashak, and so in the village I grew up in, the richest people would always be the ones involved in fortune telling and voodoo, because there's this huge informal market and people pay them a lot of money to make things happen for them, especially on the long term. And I was wondering if that's the case as well in Ghana, and if it is, if you would be interested in, making it another movie and maybe documenting it in that way.
So I think that even though the stereotype is that voodoo or traditional spirituality is bad, the practice is that there are many people who practice but practice secretly. For example, my own sister did not want to be documented in this film that we're making because she was scared of being stigmatized or that her boyfriend would see and their family would judge her because of that. And so there are many people that do practice. There are politicians that practice. There are people who are high up that practice, but it's not everybody. There are people who think that it's absolutely wrong. There are people who say, "Oh, it's good," and when I have my problems, I know where I'm gonna go. But it depends. Yeah, it depends on where you go and who you talk to. But there are many people who practice, but practice hidden. There are so many pastors that come to the house, who want to learn about like herbs, because the traditionalists are the people who know the herbs. When somebody is sick or when something's happening to the person, what herbs do you use? They come and learn. But then, they come and learn and then they go to their church and then they start criticizing us, which I think is hypocritical. One more.
Okay, we're gonna go with one last question. This side of the room.
I wanted to just ask. Hi, my name's Vladimir. I feel in the Western tradition there is often a very strong correlation between like cause and effect, and then whenever we talk about any kind of alternative medicine or just alternative approaches to like feeling good in your body, people often dismiss those things because it's very hard to prove a cause and effect relationship, and that's why I feel, I don't know if that's true, but in like voodoo, people often have a misconception of like, oh, you do this and then this is gonna definitely happen, and then it doesn't, and then people are like, well, voodoo doesn't work. So how do you go about kind of explaining it to people and stuff that it's not that simple, It's not like, oh, you do this thing with the herbs and then your life is going to be all better.
I think it depends on the way in which people study voodoo or explain voodoo or the traditional practice. You can have the best knowledge scientifically, and you can be the smartest person from Harvard or Middlebury, but if you don't know what is happening on the ground and the realities of how people are living and how they look at the world, you will not be able to really explain what it is. And so I think that's the most important thing, is to have this, you need a bridge between the two worlds that would balance the views of one side and the other, so that you can have credible knowledge about voodoo, but at the same time you can have this almost empirical way of studying. I do think that voodoo or our traditional practice in time we would come up with the technologies to be able to explain why these things happen. But that doesn't start when people are saying that this thing is just mere superstition. I think the same way people in India, were able to discover meditation from the spiritual practice through yoga, Chinese, traditional medicine, African traditional medicine being the oldest, I think it definitely has something to contribute, but it has not been given the respect that it deserves. And you've always had this top-down approach where people coming in, before they come in, they know what they want to say about it. And I think that's not the way to go. And I would really like to, use my background as a platform to help that kind of, facilitate, to kind of be that bridge. I don't know anything about science, but I can help you understand what the people are trying to say.
And also voodoo is it's like, oh, you want to voodoo is just, it's more than just like, like you do this and this would work. If it doesn't, it's like it gives philosophies of how to live life and how to live with your environment, how to live with your family, how to treat each other. So it teaches you so many aspects, and you can reach this like deep internal understanding of yourself through voodoo. So it's more than just like, oh, this, like do this and then that would work. Like this, it's such a big field,
and that's even like a secular benefit, like just going off that. Voodoo like puts you into a lot of experiences which force you to confront yourself, like Pele was saying, and get you to the core of who you are. But there's a lot of power in that. There's power in self-knowledge. There's a lot of power in knowing yourself and what motivates you and what inhibits you. because then we can use our will, our intention to work around those kind of things and achieve, our fullest potential. So it's more than just a pure formula, putting herbs and doing this and this, but it exposes you to those kind of experiences. Yeah.
So unfortunately, we have to cut the questions off there, but I'm kind of throwing the team in the deep end of this, but I'm sure you can go up and ask them. I know how much Sena loves talking about this. So we would like to thank the panel for all of the work that they've done and the discussion that we've had here today.